Hello class, my name is Aria Rose. I conducted my project manager interview with Dr. Darlene Taylor, who is an associate professor at North Carolina Central University. Our interview was held via web conferencing utilizing a software called Zoom. Dr. Taylor, as I mentioned, is a professor, so her project management experience is based in managing research projects in her lab. I hope that you find the perspective that she gave to be interesting as I did, and I hope that you're able to utilize her successes and failures that I discussed in this interview to become an even better project manager. Dr. Taylor is highly credentialed. So to give you a brief summary, she has a Bachelor of Science from Goucher College, a Master of Science from North Carolina A&T State University, a Master of Science from UNC Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels, as well as a terminal degree from UNC Chapel Hill, and has completed postdoctoral studies at Duke University. As you see, Darlene Taylor is very busy, so I am grateful that last month she was able to squeeze me in for this interview prior to her trip to China. As I mentioned in the introduction, Dr. Taylor manages projects that are research-based. So instead of being called a project manager, she is referred to as a principal investigator or a PI. As a PI, her project team is comprised of undergraduate students. Now, in the work environment, the project team members are typically subject matter experts in their respective areas. But since she is working with undergraduate students, she conducts an interview for one, to get to know the student, to see what experience they have had thus far, and two, so the student can get to know her work style, and most importantly, to see if the research that she is conducting in her lab is of interest to them. The purpose is so that the research relationship can be a mutually beneficial one. Now, it would be amazing if everyone can handpick their project team, but we know that in the work environment or in the workforce, that isn't necessarily the case. Individuals are added to the team just based on their technical skill set and may or may not be a good fit. Regardless of your situation, if you have the opportunity and the time permits, you may not be able to conduct a formal interview, but an informal interview or just a questionnaire to get to know your team members can be helpful to know if you'll have someone that is going to be fully committed to the project and is truly interested in excelling in the work that is being done. Although the establishment of the project team may be a little different from what you or I are familiar with, the project is still planned, managed, reviewed, just like any other project would be. The PI establishes the mission and the vision, and this is included in the project proposal. The project proposal, which is a grant proposal, is very similar to a project plan. It includes a list of key stakeholders, the project scope, and a very detailed statement of work, which includes the projected outcomes. In addition to the grant proposal, an annual report is also submitted at the end of each project. In her interview, Dr. Taylor mentioned that she likes to work backwards by starting with the annual report. So simply put, she likes to begin with the end in mind. Starting with the end in mind helps you create a project plan that has clearly defined objectives and assists you with reaching your desired outcomes. Achieving those desired outcomes will not come easy. Managing a project in a research lab is very complex, and so is any type of project management for that matter. Dr. Taylor enlightened me on how easy it is for the project to begin to creep out of scope. She mentioned how creative juices start to flow and they could easily take over, but to prevent them from taking over, she records her ideas as they come, or ideas that her team comes up with. And what she does is she writes them down and she saves them for a future project, kind of like a 2.0 version. She knows that the project plan that she submitted must be adhered to, so she cannot go too far outside of what she originally submitted for approval. Think about a recent project that you've worked on. Think about how excited you became and the ideas that started to flow as you were in the midst of the project. Did you run full-fledged with those ideas and the project creep out of scope? Or did you completely forget about those ideas? Or did you do like Dr. Darlene Taylor and recorded them for a later version? As creativity comes, you don't want to stifle it, but you want to make sure that you manage it well. It is a very wise suggestion to record possible new versions of a project, or a 2.0 per se, for a later date so that you do not delay the current work that you are doing. Research drives an institution. Thus, the risks of not producing as stated in a grant proposal or project plan are great. So great that it impacts the PI's ability to obtain additional research dollars in the future, as well as their career progression. Dr. Taylor shared with me that in order to maintain your reputation, you have to produce as according to the project plan. She also provides some insight on how to mitigate risks so that you can reach your project goals. She said that you essentially need to know the law of the land. What approvals do you need? How long does it typically take to get those approvals? In her world, there are human resources related risks, budget related risks, staffing related risks, and just general schedule related risks. As an experienced project manager, she incorporates those known risks into her project plan. But of course, not even the best project manager can anticipate every risk. A big challenge Dr. Taylor faces in her lab is with collaborators. If you're not familiar with North Carolina Central University, it is a small historically black college. It's not a Research One institution like UNC Chapel Hill. Thus, in order to drive her research forward, she collaborates with Research One institutions because they have greater access to staff as well as postdoctoral students. Unlike work-based projects, research-based projects do not allow for much variation. The deadlines are strict and the expectations are high. However the money is allocated and the grant proposal must be adhered to, no exceptions. Business objectives typically don't change in a research-based project. I encourage you to get to know the work environment in which you are in. If your project did not turn out the way it originally planned, would you be encouraged for taking that risk, for utilizing such great creativity? Or would you be scolded for not adhering to the project plan as described? Know the law of the land, what is appropriate in your environment, and that way you will succeed. As my presentation comes to an end, I would like to share a piece of advice that Dr. Taylor shared with me. And that is to not bite off more than you can chew. If you've only worked on a $100,000 grant, don't aim for a $2 million grant for your next project. Gradually build upon the skills that you have developed. Find a mentor who has worked on that $2 million grant or who has worked on that university-wide project that you would like to take on. Learn from their past successes as well as their past failures. Incorporate that into your skills so that you can continuously build upon your level of project management. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you all have found an interesting standpoint coming from a research project manager. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box. Thanks. As my presentation comes to an end, I would like to share a piece of advice. Comment down below.